You can hear me?
All right. Hey, I can hear you.
Great.
How's it going?
Good. How are you?
I'm good. Hey, Liz. Liz O'Neill. Actually, I'm gonna invite you to speak so that you're able to talk should you want to. Um, Liz has been doing a little research into AI and ecom as well. I think a lot of people are having the same ideas all at the same time. So as soon as I started telling people about this Twitter space, there were a lot of people that were like, "Wait, we're talking about that too. Like we're thinking about that too," which is really exciting. Um, All right. Actually, let's give it 1 minute. We'll start at the top of the hour. All right. It's the top of the hour. Okay. So I wanted to put this space together to talk about something that I think is so interesting. And like with the emergence of ChatGPT, I think probably lots of people think this is interesting. But specifically in e-commerce, kind of like what could AI do? How could things change? Um, that type of thing within the e-commerce space because of the emergence of AI and not like the way AI has always been, but AI that is so attainable and so reachable to the average person now. And Brent, my co-host today, had interest in talking about this too. So Brent, did you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. My name is Brent Peterson, and I am an e-commerce expert, or I don't know if you want to call me an expert, but I've been in the e-commerce space for a long time before the internet. Um, and I'm very interested in AI. I just signed up for GPT-4. So I'm very excited about this topic. I know that from the e-commerce side, there's so many things that we could talk about, from a catalog, production, all kinds of stuff. And I see Alan Kent is listening, who's with Google or was with Google. And I think Google also has something to say about machine generated content. So I think this is going to be very interesting.
First of all, I would definitely call you an e-commerce expert. And I totally agree. I think things are going to change a lot. And everyone in here, if you have anything that you want to say, you can like request to speak. So please, like, don't hesitate. Just do so if you have anything to say. Um, but but we can get rolling here, Brent. I have a couple questions that are like you may know the answer, you may not know the answer, you may have thoughts. But just to kind of get the ball rolling. Um, my first like kind of huge umbrella question is like why would anyone in e-commerce like in the space want to use AI and kind of like what functions in e-commerce would be best like suited to involve AI if that kind of makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, let's start at the top of your catalog, product titles. I think that AI can help you generate better product titles, or at least I think AI can be that sort of tool that helps you kind of think about what are options for what you're doing. Like it can be that brainstorming person that you would like to hear from. And you could ask that person 100 questions and they're not going to get tired of hearing from you. So think about the titles and then think about descriptions and think about metadata that has to go along with that. And then think about, hey, I have a description. I'd like to make it into a longer description. There's all kinds of things that AI is going to help us with. Then think about product images and video and even audio. If you wanted to generate some kind of if you wanted to like a screen video or something, or a video that's describing your product, you can use AI to generate your own voice that then talks about your product, where all you have to do is type it in. And fortunately or unfortunately, you could have AI generate your script and then read your script without ever having to even type or read anything into a microphone.
Oh my gosh, that's so interesting. So like you could do like a Twitter space just like this. You and I could both generate like have an AI bot generate a bunch of stuff for us two to talk about, and we wouldn't even be in the space, and listeners would think it was you and I.
Yeah, I mean that would be an interesting idea, right? So the hard part would be that we would have to script some kind of conversation that we have with each other, but I think that's perfectly possible. That an AI bot would have a conversation between the two of us.
Oh my gosh, that's so cool. Um, is so okay, so you're an e-commerce expert. What I was having this thought the other day. Do you think that AI is going to change things the most for like huge companies like say Target and Walmart, or it's going to have a bigger impact on smaller companies? Or is there just we have no idea?
I I think that the small companies can benefit the most out of it because they maybe have the
Yeah.
less bandwidth to offer up sort of solutions and use some of these. They have less bandwidth to have people to help them, right? Big companies will
Right.
have the advantage of being able to generate a lot of content, but then have people to go back and edit it. And I think the key here is that what people don't see is that if you do start generating a whole bunch of content, it's going to have to get proofed, and oftentimes it'll have
Hmm.
to get edited by a human.
Sure.
So that's where the key is going to be is having that bandwidth to actually reread it and look at it and edit it.
So it won't take all of our jobs because we're going to have to proofread its work, is what I'm
Yeah,
hearing.
I mean, really think about what the AI is generating content for somebody to read. And if it's generating a whole bunch of bogus content that nobody's going to read anyways, somebody's got to know that it's bogus. And I suppose you could have a tool that says so many people are reading it, but then at some point somebody's going to want to look and see why isn't anybody reading it. It's a lot easier
Right.
before you even send the content out to proof it as a real human being to make sure that this content is great.
Yeah. It's just the craziest thing. I didn't realize how I guess I didn't realize how close we were to just like regular consumers actively interacting with AI all the time versus I guess where I thought we were, which was years away from that. Um, so like for specifically big commerce merchants, what do you think the biggest opportunities could be with like employing AI, or I guess like what apps could people be building using AI to solve real problems for merchants? Maybe that's a better question.
Yeah, I think your second part of the question is probably there's more opportunities for developers right now to leverage AI to help merchants. So think about an app that if you have a product catalog you have all your titles done. Think about an app that goes out, generates short product descriptions based on that title, or generates longer product descriptions based on your short product description. I think there's a lot of opportunities from an app standpoint where you're calling out to something and coming back. I think there's also opportunities on BigCommerce for merchants to use, say, GPT-3, the chat feature, where you're training it to talk before you get to before you have to talk to a customer service person. But I think right now, because everything is so, it's all in its infancy, that the biggest opportunities are still with developers to develop applications that will help you enhance your products. And I don't think it stops at product titles, product descriptions, long descriptions. It also applies to the content, like blog posts they get wrapped around that product. So if you think about, you want to generate a bunch of educational material that helps people understand what your product does better, and maybe it's a video or maybe it's a blog post plus a video. That AI can help you generate that content, then that points to your product and helps everybody get a better understanding of what the product does. It also helps you in SEO to make your product more recognizable to the broader internet.
I was just thinking of SEO as you were talking because it seems like when I worked in digital media or digital marketing for a few years, something that I just struggled with was figuring out how to like best write metadata stuff, like whether it was image descriptions or whatever, so that like bots would, Google would index our site properly and bump us up to the top. It seems like an AI bot is probably a lot better at doing that than me, someone like me, kind of doing guesswork, hoping that, their descriptions are good enough.
I think what we're going to see though is that Google's going to recognize eventually that those that content is generated by AI and it doesn't have any human touch to it. And maybe not right now, but eventually we're probably going to see Google penalizing people that are just doing straight AI content. But I think right now it's wide open. And I did, interestingly enough, I was just looking at a Google Hangout that was done by Google and talking about this very topic, AI for content, and is it going to be penalized?
Funny you should say that. I was just talking to somebody else and they were talking about the penalties that are, yeah, as you say, like it's just a matter of time until they penalize only AI content. I mean, imagine what the internet would look like if it wasn't penalized and like everyone could just create these crazy websites or whatever just from an AI bot. Um, so I guess that might be the big limitation with AI. Is that something that people should be, I guess, in your opinion, people should be taking into consideration already that there will likely be penalties for like using AI generated content?
Yeah, I think if you look at their guidelines, their webmaster guidelines, they say that
Hmm.
websites should not contain any content created through automated means. So
Okay.
eventually they're going to figure it out. I posted a blog today that references John Mueller from Google, and he
Hmm.
talks about that. Um, right now they can't guarantee that content's going to get flagged, but who knows what's going to happen? And I think what we see is if we want to call it web spam, and I know that is a topic nowadays, like web spam, meaning that we're just generating content for the sake of generating content. That if that
Hmm.
content isn't offering value to people, I think that's where we're going to get penalized, right? And one thing that I see from generating content on through AI is that there is a lot of repetitiveness in it, and there is a lot of repeating in it, and for the sake of writing content or for the sake of generating better SEO, we are going to see that maybe AI was probably going to get smarter too. But I did a blog post and I shared it with the BigCommerce team, and I think some of the people said right away like, hey, this seems very SEO friendly, and I said, okay, truth be told, I generated this page with AI, so as an
Oh my
experiment. So
gosh.
I think there's
And you're right. Like AI is going to get so, I mean, we're at like kind of its infancy, I'm sure, in the grand scheme of things, and it's already pretty impressive. But yeah, you're right. Like there are going to be ways for them to pick up. I was having it write poems the other day just to see kind of like what it would do, Chat GPT. And, not that I'm like a Google expert that's going to help them figure out how to penalize it, but you can tell that there's clear limitations to what it can do at this time.
I will say that I've been using Dali quite a bit as well, and I have a whole bunch of Jack
Uh-huh.
Russell photo or Jack Russell paintings that I've done by Da Vinci and Frida Kahlo. And I did have one painting where somebody commented that the painter predates the Jack Russell Terrier, and how could that they possibly be? And I did point out it's just a fun project that they're not real Jack Russells being held, by Madonna in the 16th century.
They're like, I got this guy. He's lying. There's no way this was painted by him.
Right.
Doing a lot of research. Dolly is fun too. Is there any like application for something like, because Dolly is only images, right?
Yes.
Is there any application of that type of AI for e-commerce or not? I guess, what do you think?
I think if you can train it to give you the right image for your product, or it's probably better for blog posts. I've done quite a few blog posts using Dolly images.
Okay.
I just saw somebody talking about, can you train Dolly, or can you train an AI engine to take your brand and then generate posts based on your brand? I think that would be very interesting. But I do feel as though like a
Yeah.
product itself should have its like images of the product and things like that. you could probably do like, hey, here's my product in front of the Taj Mahal, here's my product in front of the Eiffel Tower. That kind of stuff is
Hmm.
going to be very easy. But who knows? I don't think we should ever say nothing. Like, you shouldn't say something's
Right.
not going to happen.
Right. Yeah. Because then you're just ensuring that it definitely will.
Because wasn't there
Uh,
something where people were doing like Tom Cruise's face on different, like Tom Cruise in different settings, where they basically take his face and use that deep AI to generate his face on somebody else's image or something like that. Like, anything is
I'm
possible.
sure someone's done that. Uh, I haven't seen that, but I have seen some other like deep fake stuff. I know when like deep fakes started kind of coming out and people were really concerned about them. There was one of, I think it was Jordan Peele, and he was doing his like President Obama imitation. Like he's very good at that imitation. And it looked like you were watching a video of Obama, and then like the face comes off and it's really Jordan Peele and it's just a deep fake, like, whatever. Um, so those are probably that's probably something for famous people to be very concerned about. Uh,
Yeah.
but I don't know about. But yeah, I think you're right. Like if you're obviously always going to need like product images. Like you're not going to be able to get an AI bot to like generate an organic image of your product without knowing what it is. Like you have to take photos of if you're selling something. Um, but yeah, creating different surroundings around a product could be a cool use.
Lots of cool uses.
Uh, Yeah. One question that like I think about all the time is like how how much trust should like a regular merchant or just an average person really put into something like ChatGPT? Like how do you know um I don't know, like how do you trust it? That sounds probably kind of like skeptical and dumb, but what do you think?
Yeah, I think you have to do your research. I think I started using some AI tools more than a year ago, and I'm going to say that most of this stuff that I got back was pretty garbage. It's gotten drastically better, like dramatically better now. But I
Hmm.
think it's going to also give you a whole bunch of references. The more specific it gets, the more references it's going to look at, and you need to follow that up. So you, as a user, need to do that due diligence to make sure that whatever it's giving you is correct. And I had, early on my podcast, I tried some AI tools to try to generate some, maybe some paragraphs or intros for that podcast guest. And I remember one where it just literally made up a whole bunch of stuff that wasn't even true about the guest. So if I had just like gone through and just posted that, it would have been embarrassing on my side. But just
Sure.
doing your due diligence, I think, is the most important part.
Right. Yeah. At the end of the day, it's a computer program, not a, you know, guaranteed successful thing. Um, oh, Liz. Um, welcome.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah, I was seeing if I had to like do something to let you talk, but you're all good.
All good. Yeah, Brent, I am kind of just doing some initial research, for BigCommerce around how can BigCommerce use ChatGPT, e-com retail. And I'm coming across a lot of risks, right? Like BigCommerce is PCI compliant. We have this whole like collect and store personal information, like do you feel that I'd love for you to maybe talk about the potential risks of not only BigCommerce using it from an identity, privacy, security, safety perspective, but what about our merchants?
I think the risk on a merchant side would be kind of like what Katie was saying earlier, that you're trusting it too much to create the
Mm-hmm.
content that you need for your site, and your content is so wrong that it's not at all valid. Um, from um, from the with GPRD side, I don't know. I because you're basically going out somewhere to call something to get something back, and that's just like any other
Mm-hmm.
API call. So I'm
Hmm.
not sure from the merchant side, is there a risk there or not? Where do you see the risks?
I mean, this is me doing like actually, one thing I'm struggling with is you have your, OpenAI beta, and then you have the GA, and now there's 4, and they just released, I think yesterday, the day before, like an advanced model. And so like I'm struggling with the GA model just not being available. But when I had done some research last week, it was just talking about, privacy, security, safety, data breaches, identity theft, false information, like you kind of mentioned, just bias, just depending on, discriminatory or unfair behavior from the certain applications, a lot of misinformation as well. And then, I think another one is cost, right? Because I am seeing a lot of applications being built on top of Chat GPT, but it comes at a cost too. So those are the ones I'm seeing as of last week. I haven't asked it yesterday or today because it's not working and available for me. So, but yeah, those are kind of the initial ones, and I'd love for someone else to chime in if they're seeing others, or maybe Brent, Katie, you have other ideas.
I think let's just break it into 3 pieces, right? So the number one is that real time, that real time chat that you can't really control, that you don't have, that maybe an end user is interacting with on your website or as part of your website. That's more of a risk, right? But I think if you're using AI to generate your product data or product descriptions, and then you have a human that's just double checking to make sure that looks good, then let's just say you're taking the role of a person who's writing all that, but you're still going to have an editor to make sure it looks good. And then that editor is ultimately responsible for what they're writing. So let's just say you hire an intern to write a whole bunch of product descriptions or whatever that intern's going to be doing. Somebody more senior should be reviewing what they've written. So I think there's less risk there. Then from the cost standpoint, I think the risk from a costing standpoint is like, do you build out an application that depends on something that could potentially go away?
Right.
And then, I think GPT-3 is based on how many calls you make to it. So it's sort of it's sort of an on-demand model. And if you're paying for somebody, then what if a bot gets onto your site and starts talking with the other bot, and all they're doing is generating back and forth between a couple of bots because it's a spam bot? And there's probably going to be spam bots that are out there trolling sites to talk to other sites just to create havoc and traffic.
1,000%. I think, sorry, I wasn't able to chime in earlier, but I'm seeing like Meta, Canva, and Shopify already starting to use this in their customer service chatbots. So that's kind of one idea I'm thinking for potentially for BigCommerce. And then to your point about blog posts earlier, the day before yesterday, I believe one of a Shopify developer built an app to generate Shopify blog posts. I don't know if you saw that too. So I know Jonathan from NIFMint is on here. He and I caught up, I believe, the week before last, and he's interested in building a Chat GPT app for BigCommerce. So I'd be curious. I think Aaron Sheehan wanted to speak, but I'd love to hear what Jonathan has to say as well from like a Web3 perspective and using Chat GPT.
Go ahead, Jonathan. I'll wait. I want to hear.
Go ahead. You
can. Jonathan hasn't requested to speak. So Aaron, you take it away. And then if I know Jonathan was in another Zoom meeting. He was kind of like balancing 2 things at once. So gotcha. If he wants to hop in after Aaron, I'll allow it.
Okay. I'm glad that you'll allow it. So, and I think there's a couple of other use cases for the GPT-3 in e-commerce too. I was thinking the other day about, and we talked about, Brent, you were talking about sort of generating product content and data. You and I have talked about it. I think I was the person who flagged your blog post as AI generated, by the way. Sorry about that. Nice to be validated. Would be, for one thing, imagine product contextual chatbots. So you think of how UGC has been used over the years for things like product reviews and product Q&A, right? So I think we're all very trained now by Amazon and now by Design ubiquitous, which is I want to learn more about a product. I go to the PDP and I scroll down to the bottom to find all the questions and answers and reviews and see if it's, and then you look through the reviews to try to figure out if they're fake or generated by a bot. The irony there. But, imagine an interactive GPT-3, product assistant, basically, that is trained not only on the product data that you uploaded, and maybe you generated it with a bot, specifications, but it's also got UGC fed into it as well as external data sources. So if Wirecutter did a review of that product and had information, that's in there. If another sort of Consumer Reports or aggregator did an in-depth teardown or something like that, maybe that's in there too. And you can start asking questions of the bot while you're contextually on a product page asking very specific details, because I don't know about you guys, but I'm often frustrated sometimes because I want to learn something specific about a product and it's just not in the, it's not in the product attribute. There's no product attribute for it, or there's no slug of text, or there's no specific Q&A, and there's no answer for that from a previously somebody who previously purchased it. I think contextual customer service bots are actually a pretty interesting idea, right? Where the bot knows from where it is on the page what that customer is going to be asking about, and then has access to a variety of external data sources, because hey, it's got API integrations to multiple third-party systems. It can pull data across a wide variety of things. Lots of safeguards you want to build into that for obvious reasons. But I think that's one thing to do. And then more generally, I think we've all had the experience of customer service chatbots. Chatbots have been with us for a while. But I do think the evolution of those chatbots is going to have a lot of ramifications, not only in e-commerce, but for sort of call center or customer service in general. And in fact, you wonder, I think a lot of times AI-powered bots are considered sort of a cost saver, right? I'm getting a slightly crappier user experience trying to format my questions specifically so the bot can understand them. But it's not hard to imagine a world where the customer service experience provided by a bot trained on GPT-4 with access to a huge variety of data is actually superior to the human experience, and that's where to me, it's like AI becomes not about how do I save money on this cost center, but how do I actually provide a better experience, right, overall. And it is one of those things that you were talking about, Google sort of penalizing bot generated content. I wonder, and I don't know, and I'd be interested to hear, I see Alan Kent's on, I'd be interested to hear his thoughts on this. I'd be interested to know if Google would care or should care, because Google is all about ranking pages based on the sort of semantic value and the interest and utility of the pages that are being indexed. Should Google care what the origin of that content is? In other words, if a bot invents a web page so perfect that everybody loves it, should Google penalize that page? Because look, everybody loves it. And I'm done, and I'll pass to whoever else.
Yeah, I think that's, Aaron, I think you bring up a great point. So attributes for bots, right? I think that's kind of what I think that's a great use application, because theoretically then you could build out a giant database of attributes that don't have to be in that initial feed of the product, but then are available for users to ask questions about if needed. And there'd be cross-referenced attributes that are then generated, that content is brought out from that bot through that interaction. And in addition to that, you would learn about what people are asking about that product. So if somebody's asking about a specific product and they're looking for something, but it doesn't relate to that product, the bot could then say, that product doesn't have this, but hey, look at this one. This product has what you're asking for.
Yep. Do you think we'll see, this is a slightly sort of cyberpunky, mildly dystopian future, but to what degree do you think we'll see brand specific bots that are trained on the sort of assortment and content and product market fit and customer service data from a particular brand, and the bots become sort of like avatars for that brand, maybe with a Dolly or Midjourney generated image, right? There's a little bit of that that's happened, but imagine where, let's say I'm Nordstrom's, and I sell lots of different brands apparel on my site. Would it be something where like a particular apparel brand creates a an AI powered digital assistant that answers questions specifically about their brands and products? And it's just, hey, I put a little JavaScript, script tag on that brand's PDPs, and then as a value, hey, Nordstrom's, you don't have to answer customer service questions about these products for which you're a reseller and don't know very much about. People can just interact with the bot. There you go. It's our branded bot. Every page, every category page has its own bot supplied by that brand, right? It's an interesting idea.
Yeah, I'm guessing that's already happening, and it's probably we're going to see that live in the next 6 months. I'm assuming or guessing. I saw an interesting thing about GPT-3, GPT-4, and how many synapses each of those can handle, and they're going to the ability to store and answer information is just going to go up and up and up. So I think we shouldn't put any guardrails around what it can and can't do.
Sorry, my my mic button was stuck on mute. Okay, the brand specific chatbots or AI bots is like such an interesting idea, Aaron. I feel like I feel like I've seen stuff like that already, where like a particular brand, when I go to like their chat, it'll be like, you're talking to our customer service. Like they talk about how it's an AI bot named like Dan or whatever.
Right,
So
you're talking
I'm
to the Warby
confident
Parker.
we'll see the emergence of that.
Yeah, you're talking to the Warby Parker. You're talking to Warby,
yeah.
the AI
right.
assistant for Warby Parker or something like that. And but
right.
Warby can be deployed every surface area, every web, HTTP connected surface area that Warby Parker sold on, and so now it's just an API call to a digital assistant. I can see that being a value proposition given to distinguish one brand from another, right? Like, oh, well, buy our stuff because
totally.
we are right because we have this cool experience. But yeah, it's an interesting idea.
Definitely. This has all been really interesting. Is there anything else that anybody wants to chime in, bring up, ask about before we close this space down for the day?
I think the ability for not just the content or for written content, but we should also look at, we talked a little bit about DALL-E, but there's going to be video that's going to be more pervasive, and as well as audio content out there that we should see.
I love that you brought that up, and I'm really happy that's kind of like what we're going to leave this on, because I never think about any other medium besides written when I think about AI, honestly. Like DALL-E has brought images to like the forefront, but you're totally right. That's something to absolutely look out for and get excited and or worried about,
right?
Depending on how things go.
Yeah, we'll be talking about BigCommerce and Spotify, right? Is that the other one?
Shop. I don't know what the other one is. I was like, you don't know it? That's funny. All right. Well, if there's nothing else anyone wants to chime in, thank you all so much for coming. This space will be recorded, and I'm going to get more diligent about doing follow-up blogs after this with like kind of pulling out the important parts. But thank you all for joining. If any of you have anything you'd ever want to talk about in a space in the future, whether that's a topic like AI that's like huge and, we're just kind of shooting the shit about it, or if you've built something really cool that you want to talk about, I would love to have any of you on anytime. So please feel free to reach out to me on Twitter or LinkedIn. My messages are open across the internet, so I'd love to hear from you. And thank you so much to Brent for coming on and being our resident expert today.
Thank you.
And I'll talk to you guys all later. Thanks for joining.
Bye.